Welcome to the Diverse Minds podcast, where we give you the tips, tools and techniques you need to be a mentally healthy and inclusive leader. Each week, you'll hear about a variety of topics linked to mental health, well-being and diversity that will enhance both your professional practice and personal well-being. Welcome to the 112th episode of the award-winning Diverse Minds podcast. And as you know, the focus for this month is about the diversity of Black experiences for Black History Month. And today we're going to be talking about a really interesting subject, money, specifically money, the way we have our money stories as global majority women. And to do this, I'm joined by Talia Loderick, who is a money coach based in Cardiff. She calls her money coaching practice TLC because when she realized the acronym for Tender Loving Care also stands for Talia Loderick Coaching, she almost swooned with joy because who doesn't need a dose of TLC from time to time? Rhetorical question, we all do. Talia offers one-to-one coaching, helping women understand their emotions and beliefs around money so they can improve their behaviour with money, feel better and be better with money. Talia also delivers financial education workshops to 11 to 19-year-olds, helping young kids and people build lifelong money management skills. So I can't tell you how delighted I am to have Talia on the show, especially as I went through her coaching, her money coaching, and really came out much stronger for it. So I'm delighted to have her on the show to talk about this topic in more depth. So Talia, a huge welcome to the show.
Hello. Hi, Layla. How are you?
Yeah, great. And I was so delighted to have you to share your wisdom. And I was telling the listeners how I had a fantastic time, you being my coach, and how it really helped me to turn corners.
You were a dream client. I mean, actually, it's really unfair that you were just such a lovely client because I have a great bunch of clients, and you're definitely one of them. Thank you.
So Talia, I read out your bio, but I think it'd be lovely for the listeners to hear a little bit more about yourself and more in depth around what you do and your coaching practice.
Yeah, thank you. So for me, I guess, I've been really reflecting on why I do what I do actually in recent weeks. And for me, it very much is that my upbringing shaped my interest in money. So I'm 41 now. I'm an 80s baby. So mum, dad, 3 children. I'm the oldest of 3 children. And we were always clothed. We always had food. We had a roof over our head, but there really wasn't anything extra. There was nothing to cover any unforeseen events or any emergencies. We didn't really go on holidays. You know, it was an alien concept. Had day trips out, don't get me wrong. But so there was that feeling for me growing up of them never being enough, I guess. Anyway, so I went to university. So I'm from Bristol, born and bred in Bristol, went to university in London, and which was very expensive, really fun, but really expensive. And probably throughout university and then throughout adult life, I guess, in my 20s into my 30s, I really describe it as going through like boom and bust cycles of earning money and spending money and then overspending money and racking up debt and then paying it off and then doing the same again. And that's really how I came to coaching, because I kind of realized over many years that while I'd always had an interest in personal finance from a young age, from growing up with not very much money in the household. And so I was like, okay, I want to feel comfortable. So I always knew about money. I'd read the money pages in the newspapers, magazines, all of that stuff. So I really liked, interested in personal finance, and I knew what I should be doing practically to manage my money better. And I just couldn't put it into practice. And eventually, it probably wasn't until my mid-30s, I really came to realize that you can learn all of the practical money management tips you want, but really until you kind of take a step back from that and examine your emotions and your beliefs around money, it's really hard to be better and feel better, which I think is really important. Feel better with money. And I think it's really hard, to change your behavior with money and put all those practical tips into place, such as, spending less than you earn and paying down debt and saving for the future. And they're all great things. But really, unless you know what drives your behavior, it's really hard to change your behavior. So my first career was as a journalist and a writer. And I covered a lot of money stories. But in my 30s, I came to retrain as a money coach because I wanted to be better and feel better with money. And I realized that actually I wanted to help other people, women particularly. As a money coach, I work with women. I wanted to help them do the same. So I would say as a coach, I really offer women emotional support and the practical help as well. But it really is about helping people build awareness and understanding, empowering their choices and providing that support and encouragement and a sounding board, and trying to help my clients move from where they are now to where they want to be. So it's all about understanding, helping women understand their emotions and beliefs about money so they can improve their behaviour with money and feel better and be better with money. And I call, like, my business is called Talia Loderick Coaching. So TLC, that stands for, and that's what I like to offer people, because I really want to create a judgment-free, safe space for women to talk openly and honestly about money, because I think that is what's missing, actually. I think in today's world and society, it's hard to talk about money, right? Even with friends and family, people who love you. So, quite often, instead of listening, they'll give you advice, or this is what you should do. And then instead of support, sometimes you can get judgment. So I want to hold that space for people to be able to get all their money worries and fears and desires about money, get it off their head and talk to someone and not feel judged and feel supported.
Wow, thank you, Talia. And we've talked a lot about, we're big fans of Alvin Hall. If anyone else is from the similar generation to Talia and myself, if you ever watch those programs that used to be on in the 90s, and he talks about that, doesn't he, about the emotions, and it's not the money in and of itself, it's kind of what you were given, and that he goes through different sort of family types very broadly, and that might create your money spending signature.
Yes.
And, we've talked about that. And, the big challenge with me is that, I really struggle to spend. I feel guilty. So there's a lot to it, because often people think about debt with money, but there's also huge challenges for, it can be too much saving for a rainy day because some of us don't have that family support, or because of the judgment you talked about, or because we can't ask people for money. Maybe they don't have it, but also we know they don't want to give it. So all of those things are so wrapped up in there. And then your journey to becoming a money coach. So what kind of training do you do? How do you actually become a money coach? And how did you, choose the training provider and go through that journey?
Well, it took thank you for asking that, because it really, it took a lot of thinking, I guess. It's not a standard thing to do, and something that I do. I find it really easy to talk myself out of things. So I have all of the ideas and enthusiasm, and then my self-doubt really kicks in. So my self-doubt was saying to me, no, don't be ridiculous. You can't be a coach. What even is that? Stick to what you know. Your background is journalism and writing. You're good at researching and writing and talking to people. Like, stick with that. Coaching, like, don't even try. That's what my inner voice is saying to me. So it's been a series of what I call baby steps, really. So I did a coaching qualification in 2017. So that was I took advantage of subsidized training by the National Union of Journalists, of which I was a member. And so I was freelancing, doing journalism, a bit of PR and communications, and they were running a training course by the ILM, the Institute of Leadership and Management, and it was a coaching and mentoring qualification. And I thought, oh my God, how timely! That's popped up in my inbox. Let me sign up for that and just see if this is a thing and can be done. And you actually had to get some practice clients as a part of doing that qualification. So it's really great. So did that in 2017. Then in 2018, there is a woman in the UK who really has kind of established the money coaching, financial coaching, she calls it, as a thing. So her name is Simone Neeson. She's brilliant. She's based in Brighton, and she's been doing financial coaching for 20 years, and in the past few years has started training other people to become financial coaches. So I did her 1 week training course in 2018. So I was like, okay, this is a thing. I've got my coaching qualification. I've now done money specific coaching training. in 2019, I finally got a website live and started running money workshops. And it's just grown from there slowly. You know, people find me. You know, you found me. I think you found me through LinkedIn, and
I did, yeah.
other clients find me through Google searches. Other clients find me through word of mouth recommendation, which is just the best. But yeah, so it's taken me a good few years to get to where I am now, and you know, I'm gonna keep on going, I guess. I really love this work. I like I said, I just work with some great women, and like you said, it's not all about, I think when I tell people I'm a money coach, it's very niche, right? It's a new thing, or not new, but it's unusual, and I completely get that. And so people go, oh, so do you work with, you know, people in debt, like poor people? And I'm like, well, there's nothing, you know, that there's nothing wrong with that, but also, no, if someone is like hideous amounts of debts, of course I wouldn't take money off of them as a money coach. I direct them to some of the amazing free support organizations available to them in the UK. So actually, a lot of women I work with, they have different issues. You know, they have money, but they feel bad about spending their money, for example, or they feel guilt about spending their money. And it's really breaking that down and basically helping people understand their emotions and beliefs about money so they can move forward with money in a way that works for them, you know. So you can earn as much or as little as you want, but if your outgoings exceed your income, and you struggle to spend money on the things that matter to you, then that's an issue, and that's what I can help people with.
And so that term then, you know, good with money, what does it mean to you? Do you think we should be using it? Like, what does that conjure up? Is it helpful, unhelpful? What are your thoughts about it?
So thank you for asking me this. Really interesting. I've been thinking about this the past couple of days, actually. Good with money is of I think there is a basic to being good with money, but it's not as simple as it sounds. So I would say, you know, there is the definition of financial well-being in the UK, and I guess like generally. So, you know, financial well-being is all about having enough money to cover your needs and to cover your wants, and it's that sense of security that comes with having that money to cover your needs and your wants, and you know, have money for the future. That's really important. So I guess being good with money then is spending less than you earn. Probably the basic. So spending less than you earn and paying down debt and saving for the future. So that's being good with money. But for me, I think an important part of what I do is it's easy to think you're bad with money when you can't stick to those seemingly simple good with money behaviors. Do you know what I mean? So spending less than you earn, paying down debt, saving for the future. And I think that's because there's another side to being good with money that rarely gets thought about, let alone talked about. And that is the emotion and belief side. And I think really once you try and understand that more, once you understand why you do what you do, you can start to move forward and figure out how to be good with money in a way that works for you. Because I really do think we all know the basics, don't we? We're all like, oh yeah, we should put a bit of money away for the future. Shouldn't have, you know, too much consumer debt. Really, you might use it to get certain things in life, but you know, pay down that debt. And obviously the key one is don't spend more than you've got coming in. But it's really hard to stick to those things. It can be really hard to stick to those things. And I think, you know, yeah, once you think, okay, well, how else can I be good with money, you know, in a way that works for me? I think that's really important. Otherwise, you can just beat yourself up for being bad with money. And it's really hard to motivate yourself from a place of negativity, isn't it? Going, oh, just be less bad with money. You know, it's really hard to then be better and feel better around money.
And I think, yeah, the opposite as well, like spending. We talked about this a lot and thinking, you know, I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't do that. I don't deserve it. You know, your point when you said, you know, I didn't feel good enough, and we can not feel good enough. That makes us spend money and say, treat ourselves, but we can feel not good enough. And think, oh, you know, I don't want to be accused of being reckless, of being too indulgent. I need to show some restraint, but it goes to a point where it's really unhelpful, as it was the situation with me.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's interesting. There's a lot of talk, there has been a lot of talk about, like, you know, money shame. It's that feeling that you're, you know, just fundamentally bad with money or stupid or unworthy when it comes to money. And I think, you know, in today's society, we do put a lot of value on our financial standing, isn't it? And we tend to blame ourselves if we're not keeping up with our peers, and judge ourselves negatively. If we're in Britain, obviously, and we're a nation obsessed with property, and it can feel, well, if I don't own a property by the time I'm 30, I am just an awful human being. And it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's like, if you can afford a roof over your head, whether you rent or whether you own that roof, like that's important. That's what matters. So yeah, I think I really like to help people to reflect and ask themselves if the life that they're living or the life that they're seeking is the life they really want, and figure out how finances can help them get there, so that people aren't just beating themselves up for not being, quote unquote, good with money.
Thank you so much, Talia. And expanding on kind of our broader cultural experiences, and, we're from different cultures, of course, and people listening to this podcast will be, but your thoughts really about money, gender, culture, well-being, because often we see that, and we know that global majority diaspora women are the ones who often look after themselves, their families, elders, but don't necessarily spend on themselves, or really struggle to ask for help because they've been turned down so many times, either by family, friends, or authorities. So just wondered what your thoughts were about that and any trends that you'd seen.
Yeah, I think this is such an interesting subject. And I was speaking to my mum about this the other day, and I was like, Mum, what do you think that is? Like, where does it come from? So my background, my heritage is Jamaican. My grandparents came over in the 50s from Jamaica and settled in Bristol, and my dad's side settled in Cardiff. And yeah, so reflecting on it myself and speaking to my mum about it, I think it's interesting because many of us from global majority diaspora backgrounds, we are kind of taught, I think, females, we are taught explicitly and also by modeled behavior to support others first, to care for others first, to nurture everyone around us. That's to be a good girl. Do you know what I mean? And that is really important.
Absolutely.
But as you know, in order to look after others well, we need to look after ourselves. And I always think it's so simple and it's so often repeated, but it's true. You're on an airplane and it's like, you need to put your mask on first should anything happen before you sort your kids out, or your partner out. And which seems like such the weirdest alien thing to do, isn't it? Because we're so used to putting others first. And I think it's really tied up in what it means to be a good woman, the need to be of service. And there are conversations as a Black woman about what it means to be of service. To be a good woman, you've got to be of service to everyone around you and put yourself last. And if that's what we're explicitly taught growing up, and that's what we see the women around us in the family doing, I definitely seen it with my own mother, who saw it from her mother. Do you know what I mean? And so on and so forth. And if you have that and you are taught that explicitly, but it's also modeled to you by the women and the men around you who are expecting you to even serve them food at the table first before anyone else eats. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen it. I know it.
Yeah, you've seen
and I
it.
hate
it.
And I just say, get your own bloody cup of tea, because it really makes me angry, actually. And this is not people who have mobility impairments or are struggling. Of course I would do that. But it makes me fume. You could see the flames licking at the top of my head, quite frankly.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I've seen it. I get it. I experience it. And it makes me frustrated and angry and sad. And also I think, so, that's where it comes from, the need to put everyone else first, but, not realize that what we're doing is passing this down generation by generation. If we're modeling this behavior that you would put yourself last, and it's bad to take care of yourself. And I think it's really kind of embracing that self-love, really, that you look after your own well-being and happiness, and by taking care of your own needs and not sacrificing your own needs in order to please others. Yes, it is good to be of service to other people in the world, but I think particularly when we're thinking generationally, like, what are we telling our kids if we say, as a mum or as an auntie or as a sister or something, that, you would put yourselves last, you wouldn't treat yourselves, you wouldn't have any fun yourselves because you've always got to be of service to other people. Do you know what I mean? So things like, I was speaking to my mum about this a couple of days ago, things like, and I think when you come from a working class background as well, it's really interesting. There's a fear of, say, debt. So if your child wants to go to university, for example, it would be, oh no, well, I don't want them to take out a student loan. So what I'll do is I won't put into my pensions, or I won't won't save money for my old age or whatever. What I'll do is I'll support my child through university so they don't have to take out a student loan. And that sounds really good on the face of it, but actually what you're doing is hurting yourself. Like that's essentially what you're doing with your finances there. So I think prioritizing the fact that we need to invest in and look after ourselves and model that behavior to the family around us is what's really important.
And on the back of that, it's just really, you talking is making me quite emotional, just reflecting on everything. And thinking about the term financial well-being, then how would you sort of define that in a couple of sentences? What does it mean to you as well, that term financial well-being?
So financial well-being to me really means having enough for my day-to-day needs, putting money aside for the future as well. And it's that sense of ease, that sense of security, with knowing what enough is for you. And the way I think about it is keeping up with yourselves and not the Joneses, which is increasingly hard to do in this very consumerist society, as I'm sure you know. But it's really working out, well, what's important to me? What do I need? And trying to build that sense of security and ease that comes with knowing you can pay your bills today, you can deal with the unexpected, and that you're on track for a healthy financial future as well. So, that's the definition of financial well-being for me.
Beautiful. Thank you. And I think as well, there have been some really good discussions and books in the last 18 months led by Black women. So Otego Wagba's We Need to Talk About Money, Money Moves podcast with Tony Tones. Why do you think it's taken so long for Black female voices to be in this space, talking about money, finances, etc.?
I mean, I think it just, I don't know, it's a perfect storm now, but I mean, it's great. It's great to see. Great to see Black women talking about money. I have always loved reading about money, like you mentioned, Alvin Hall from back in the day, late 90s, early noughties. I've always loved it. I've loved reading the financial press, all the financial bloggers that are out there. And now, like you say, the more Black authors and Black women writing about money. And I think, it just takes time, really, but there's so many people out there now, and it's almost building up a movement, I guess. I think it has chimed with that whole, how can I say it, the whole being an upfront woman, going out there, going into the workplace, that getting what you need, getting what you want, getting what you're worth, and the money that you feel you're worth and you deserve, and all of that. So I think that's, as that's built up, as women have, become more prevalent in the workplace, and it's like, okay, we can talk about ambition now, therefore we can talk about money, therefore we can talk about, plenty of women are the breadwinners in their household. It's like, well, let's talk about that. And the more that we can talk about that and offer others an insight, that's really important.
And I wonder whether there's also, from the events that have happened in the last sort of year and a bit, more space made for Black women. Now, it shouldn't come off the back of something horrific, but I think the reality is that it has. And so appreciating that money, culture, diaspora journeys are all part of people's money stories as well.
Yes, definitely. I do think, gosh, the events of, it shouldn't take a man being murdered in America and that impacting us all globally for people to sit up and go, oh yeah, maybe the world's not great for everybody. And it's like, yeah, no, maybe it isn't. But the conversations that can come out of that can, have been enlightening, isn't it?
Yeah. And then thinking about workplaces, what do you think, and I know you do workshops with schools, but what do you think workplaces can do to introduce more money conversations, thinking about financial well-being, debt support into their workplaces, especially given COVID, furlough ending, all these things that are going to be ongoing? I think the financial situation of the country is going to be very peaky, very minimal peaks, big troughs, realistically. So what kinds of things can workplaces be doing? How to have the conversations, appreciating the aspect around financial well-being?
I think workplaces are I think financial education at all ages and all levels matters. So financial education definitely, I think, starts at home. It starts, with your parents or your guardians. That conversation importantly, it's that modelled behaviour. But then I think that continues into, like you say, I deliver financial education workshops in secondary schools and colleges and sometimes universities to 11 to 19-year-olds. But I absolutely then think the workplace has such an important part to play after that as well. So when people enter the workplace, I think we forget, actually, there's so much talk around being your own boss when in your own business. I think we forget how many people still go into the world of work and stay with one or two companies throughout their lifetimes. Do you know what I mean? Not everyone moves around jobs every couple of years. So workplaces absolutely have a key role to play in financial education and financial well-being. And I think in terms of really explaining, workplace benefits, I know so many people that actually don't understand the power of employer matched contributions into your workplace pension. They don't get it. And so they don't pay into their pension. And so, unless obviously we've got auto enrollment now, but they might pay the minimum. Whereas if they paid, 6% or 10% of their salary into their workplace pension, their employer will match that and will put in 10%. That's free money that people are turning down, not even knowing that they're turning that down. So I think absolutely workplaces can do a better job, instead of just having that on their intranet, bringing in people to do talks about the importance of financial well-being. And the workplace, you just have such a captive audience. I mean, some workplaces, depending on where you work, I've got friends who work in workplaces where they get shares in the company, and they can buy more shares in that one company. They do talks. They have the financial advisor come in and explain pensions to them. I should be going into a firm next month to do a talk all about financial well-being and what that means. And so, there are a number of ways that workplaces can really help their staff with their whole well-being. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about mental health in the past few years. It's really great that is now being talked about more. People are aware of it. I think financial well-being is definitely part of that as well, because there are some statistics, I don't have them to hand, but it's about the impact on employees if they are dealing with financial worries and financial stress. It makes them less productive employees. That shouldn't be the only reason that a workplace wants to support its workers with financial well-being. But even if it is just that one reason, we'll do it so we'll have more productive, we'll help our workers with their financial worries. We'll see what we can do for them just so that they will be more productive employees when they come into the workplace. Even if that was the only motivation for an employer to introduce financial well-being in the workplace, they'd still be helping their staff. So I think that's really important.
Brilliant tips. And often employee assistance programs can help. If it's a big company, they often have a financial sector or debt recovery element to the EAP. So again, I think you're right, inviting someone in at the very minimum and doing workshops and talking about it, and even creating safe spaces for people to talk about it. Again, it's hard at work and you don't know who's going to turn up, but I think that can be really useful. I think maybe as well, given generational shifts, social media, etc., younger staff might be more open to it. I think in workplaces, just hearing you talk, having a space where people could come and talk about their student loans, maybe it could be a start, couldn't it? Because, university, it's a slightly less stigmatized kind of debt.
Yeah, definitely. I think, where's that statistic? I've got it here. So apparently not prioritising employee financial well-being could be costing UK employers around £15 billion each year. It's really important. Yeah, things like that, it really does matter in the workplace. And I think it's really important for employers as well. They don't need to have an all dancing, all singing financial wellbeing hub before they can get started. Most employers will have the elements of a financial wellbeing program in place already. And I think then, quite often it falls to HR, but it's about maybe HR professionals just checking what is already being provided by their organisation, ensuring that it's fit for purpose, filling in anything that's missing, and then just bringing it all together. So really just assessing your financial wellbeing offering, and then, assessing it every year and updating it as and when needed. I think that's really important. And I think asking staff what they would like to see in a financial wellbeing programme in the workplace is really important.
Brilliant. Now all workplaces have got their blueprint. They can crack on with that. So thank you, Talia. That's really useful. And then thinking about mental health and the work that you do, it is emotionally draining, and it can be a lot. So what are the ways in which you look after your own mental health? What are your top 3 tips for our listeners?
Oh, in terms of looking after your mental health, I mean, I think for me, first of all, as a coach, obviously, and I'm sure you'll know this, Layla, like my work is amazing. I love it. I love that I get to do this and call it, it's my job. And I love being able to help people in this way. It's quite draining emotionally, actually, to deal with other people's emotions. So I try not to do more than one coaching call a day. That's actually how I do that. I also have trusted, let me see, I'm really fortunate. I've got about 4 trusted friends who I can talk to about work and about money, actually. I think definitely the past 18 months, Corona times, we've all had to talk about many, many things about health, but also about financial well-being and just, checking in with someone, see how they're coping. I have got trusted people that I can talk to about my mental health, about my well-being, about money, about, so I think having those confidants are really important. What I started doing, it won't sound silly. I try and go for a walk every day. And honestly, I know how I can be really hermit-like. And so I can just not leave the house for like 2 or 3 days. I feel awful when I do that. I just need to go for a walk, just 20 minutes round the block and literally walk off my worries and move my body. I am able-bodied, I'm able to move. So I need to get outside. I need to, if the sun is shining, get some sun on my face. If the sun isn't shining, it's raining, I still need to walk, move your bodies, get those worries off your mind. So for me, those are the 3 key things for managing my mental health. So I have to manage my workload. I have people that I can confide in, and I just need to leave the house and move every day.
Brilliant tips. Thank you, Talia, especially the one about be realistic and make sure you don't overschedule yourself. I think that's such an important one. So listeners, I really hope you've enjoyed this. I cannot, and she hasn't paid me, I promise you, I cannot big up Talia enough. She is absolutely brilliant. And, having been trained as a coach myself, I would say Talia is the creme de la creme. Her coaching is phenomenal. The amount of work she puts into it and the way she is so supportive and non-judgmental. So if people want to know more about your work, Talia, and I will put this in the show notes, how should they contact you?
I have a website, so it's Talia Loderick, so that's TaliaLoderick. So talialoderick.co.uk is my website where you can find out a bit more about me, my work, and how to work with me. And then on social media, I am primarily on LinkedIn and Instagram, and I'm at Talia Loderick there.
And thank you so much. As always, fascinating discussion. And we knew that after the coaching sessions that I definitely knew I wanted you on the podcast. So delighted that you could join us. And just as always, a real honour to speak to you and have you in this space, Talia.
Thank you Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me on, Layla. It's a privilege.
And everyone, take care, and we'll see you in the next episode to talk more about a variety of Black experiences. Until then, take care.
Thanks for listening to the Diverse Minds podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you access your podcasts from. You can also connect with me on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Tune into next week's episode of the podcast, where I'll bring you more insights on mental health and inclusion. Bye for now.